Right. And also, since I don't care about achievements, I'm freed from achievement hunting. Just do whatever I want and then stop. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Then at that point, you just kind of have to think about the angle, like what kind of.
What's funny is when I booted up
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I could totally get the fucking platinum in this game.
Well,
I'll have one that.
speaking of
that Evan doesn't
platinums,
have.
we're live, and that's a platinum in Pixel Pints. Welcome to Pixel Pints. We are the only global gaming podcast that covers two great things, which is good beer and video games. I'm your host, Mitch, and I'm joined by an esteemed, you're not a panel, you're just a group of people, that I enjoy talking to. So we have all the way from Japan, we got Evan Piotrowski.
Sweater weather. It's happened, finally. I'm surprised you're not wearing one, Berkough. I thought for sure you'd be
Sweater weather.
sweater weather? Vest.
You mean vest weather?
No,
Yeah,
no,
it is
it's
not sweater
It's
weather.
it's always sweater weather. It's always sweater weather here in Weta Weta.
That's what you caught that, did you? Damn it. Sweater weather.
Wars.
Ichiban Shibors.
Eat
Yeah,
your
it's-
bound your boars.
It's so Wisconsin. I think it's 83 degrees here, but it's 81% humidity, so it feels like 91. And even though I'm in this small room with the AC on, you can feel like the air is still like really, really thick. It's pretty gross here, and it's raining outside.
If you want to know how that
But,
feels like, you just play Persona 5. It'll tell you exactly how that feels too.
Oh, is there a part where they talk about how shitty summer is in Japan?
They tell you the weather of every single day during the seasons,
Yeah.
and so you know
Oh,
it's
yeah,
like
that is
the
right.
humid season. But because we're not in Japan, Berkough's over here on the West Coast in Viva Las
West
Vegas.
Coast.
The best coast.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm doing all right, man. I had to buy a new fridge, though. That was an expense I was not expecting.
Did you at least sit in the fridge and close it on yourself to get that experience?
No. But yeah, the new one's working well.
What's the
Yeah,
point?
that was-
What's the point of the fridge, Berkough, then?
It's the only time it'll be completely empty. Just,
Yeah, completely available.
No, it was already actually my wife took care of hooking it all up and everything. So by the time I got home from work the next day, it was already done.
So she didn't do it either. So you should be disappointed. I'm disappointed in both of you, and you can tell that to the wife. I'm disappointed in her.
All right, I'll let her know.
I was never her favorite, so it's okay. And just so you know, we are Pixel Pints. Oh, I'm in LA. Things fine. Just been doing a lot of sports, so I'm tired all the time. So it's either going to the gym, or I'm going to play beach volleyball, or I'm going to go play tennis.
This guy, before Mitch's time, he sees Top Gun Maverick, and he's like, "Oh, there was a one before this." He watches that volleyball scene. He's like, "Dude, I'm gonna get in so much shape. The shape I'm going to be in,
Right.
beach volleyball."
Yeah.
I'm gonna be the shape of you. No, okay.
Wait,
What's,
Yeah.
isn't that
I don't know.
is that a song by
Which-
Ed Sheeran? Shape of You or whatever?
yeah, I'm in love with the shape of you.
Yeah, thank you. Just push and pull
Yeah,
like
we-
magnets do. So we're Pixel Pints. We stream every single weekend here on twitch.tv/Pixel Pints. If you want to follow us, we are on Twitter, kinda. Well, unless Twitter implodes. Things are changing in the social media landscapes.
Yeah.
This graphic may have to change soon. I am so sorry, Rafa. You just made this recently and you might have to change it. But yeah, there's new things called Mastodon. There's new things called Threads. We don't know where we're going to be, but you can just follow us right now on Twitter at pixel_pints or on Instagram. That one definitely is not going away. Pixel Pints
Pixel
Pod.
Pints Pod.
We're also archive all our episodes on twitch.tv/pixelpints or on YouTube. That one also isn't going away. You know, it's a theme. Elon Musk, if you touch something, it tends to go away. Just probably not touch anything anymore. You should be a germaphobe and just stop touching things. But we're at youtube.com/pixelpints, or just look up Pixel Pints and we'll find it. Anyway, we talk about two things. That is good beer and video games. So now, gentlemen, it is time for a beer talk.
Some brewskis.
I was going to get beer, and I
brewskis.
completely forgot on my drive back from beach volleyball to pick up a specialty beer, and I was so upset because because the store I was going to go to is in Sawtell, which is kind of a mini Korean, Japanese, Asian cuisine hub place, but there's a specialty beer place there as well that has really interesting beers. I was way past that when I realized, oh shit, I wanted to do that before I went home. So I just have Alani. So
Next time.
what do you got, Berkough?
Oh, I have a Modelo Negra that I picked up. So I don't think I've ever had this on the show. I rarely get it.
No, you have not.
Usually I'll order it like when I go to Mexican restaurants or something. And it's just sort of a special beer. No, so this week we're gonna try and make Polla a la Brasa, which is a Peruvian dish, and it calls for a cup of dark beer. So I had to pick up a 6-pack of Modelo Negra.
So
Nice.
you're
I
gonna-
haven't
are you gonna do other.
I haven't had one of those for a while.
Are you gonna like make other dishes with dark beer so you don't waste it all? Or are you just gonna drink it all?
I'll probably just drink it all, except for one of the bottles.
You might
That's always
you might have to like look up
that's
and be
always,
like make dark beer dishes and like try something crazy. Maybe like soak some chicken in the dark
Well,
beer.
yeah, it is a chicken dish, but
Well, I was just thinking like you could do like a beer batter and do like chicken fingers but in a beer batter style.
actually, fish and chips with this in the batter would actually be pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do some experimenting.
Yeah, so I'll have to do some more research on this, but the Negra is a Munich Dunkel is the style of beer, which kind of makes sense because most Mexican beers are just lagers. So it stands to reason that they would do more German style beer, I guess. But yeah, it's pretty good. It's a little malty, little slight notes of coffee, all the stuff you'd expect from a dark beer.
What do you got, Evan?
Actually, I have a dark lager as well. It's quite rare for me. So I subscribe to Mino Beer's bi-monthly package, and each one they'll include a couple bottles of seasonal beer. So this is their seasonal beer. There you go, Mino
Ooh.
Beer.
You know what that art reminds
It's
me of? Reminds me of those
What's that?
oh geez, what's the director's name? Oh my god, Spirited Away. Miyazaki. It looks like a Miyazaki art.
A little bit,
Yeah, there's probably some sort of thread with Japanese artists, and
It's fair.
if it's not anime, because like Hayao Miyazaki or Ghibli art style is different. It's like a subcategory of anime style, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you could probably put that in that type of category. So this is the Papazaru Dark Lager. It just means a daddy monkey lager, and I believe they released this on Father's Day. So it's been in the fridge for a while. That's why he's got for people only listening. There is a blue monkey with a tie, a lovely like villainous Salvador Dali, but not as long mustache, and glasses on. So he's supposed to be a dad, and he's holding a beer. And their logo is a monkey because there are monkeys in the mountains in Mino.
He looks like if Alfred from Batman was a monkey.
Yeah.
From Batman the animated series.
Batman had a kid with Salvador Dali, and then that kid was also a monkey. That's what this monkey looks like. Actually, all of their beers. 1 second.
See, I also forgot we are on podcasting services around the globe, so just look up Pixel Pints and we're there, audio listeners. But we recommend watching the video version. We got funky graphics and stuff. Oh my god, so many audio listeners. He just pulled out 4 beers of different monkeys doing the same position. They all sit on their bum, and they just take one arm and they put out a glass of something, and there's always some festive thing on their head or on their ears, and they're different colored monkeys.
Yeah, so the one that they did for Valentine's Day, he's holding a rose in his mouth. The one that has yuzu in it, he's got a little leaf on his head, and he's the color of a yuzu lemon. And so yeah, like basically it's the logo of the company, and all they do is just oh, my window's open. Sorry. They just keep changing the color and slightly altering the monkey to suit whatever the beer is. So this is a dark lager. It just says dark lager. I don't know. It's not like a specific dark lager style. Hold on, I have the information of the beer here. So it's a dark lager. It's 5%. Okay. And I've had a little bit of it. So I have it in a little tasting glass. It pours the color of the Thames. It's like sewer water. No, it's not. It's like a
about the same.
Yeah, they're about the same color. Yeah, I think it's a little brighter, just a little bit, but it might be the lighting.
Yeah,
it's possible.
It makes sense that it's also lighter because it's a lager. It's not a heavy, like, opaque beer. It's a kind of transparent brown, and again, one reason I do like dark lagers, I should probably have more, is because their lagers are there's
that effervescence.
The good ones are drinkable. They're like really, really drinkable. You can have a few. It's not heavy or overpowering. This has a very very light roast flavor to it, and way more carbonated than like a dark ale.
Right.
Which I don't know, I prefer, especially on a humid, hot day like this. It's, if you want, instead of going for like a stout or something a bit heavier. Although stouts aren't heavy, but
our beers amazingly sound very similar.
Yeah, they do.
I'm super surprised.
Is it kind of?
It's almost exactly what you. Yeah.
Wait a minute, and I peel it. It just says like Modella Negra. It's like Scooby Doo. Yeah. So this is good. I'm pretty sure Her Majesty had the other one, because if she gets home tomorrow and I had the only Papazaru dark lager, she might be mad. But them's the breaks. I didn't drink for 4 days because of my ear infection. She had 4 days to drink that beer, and she didn't. That's her fault.
That is, yeah.
This is a solid, very drinkable dark lager. I like it a lot.
All right. Sounds like a plan. One quick question for you, Evan, because I just got into realization, because you have a house now. Mm-hmm. I'm just curious, because all my perception of when I see of like people living in Japan, it's very compact and very small, but you seem to have a lot of space in your house. Is like there a change in like culture wise in Japan where like homes are becoming a little more spacious in comparison to the past?
Actually, a good question. And older houses tended to have, even if the space on the first floor was big, they tended to separate that space into like 4 small rooms, versus maybe in the States that might be just one giant living room or 2 separate rooms. Mm-hmm. And the measurement for Japanese houses is jo, which is the size of a single tatami mat. It makes sense to me now. That's not very helpful to you guys, but if you get an older house, it will be all of these small rooms. And even what people do now is they'll buy an older house for cheap and they'll just renovate it. So those rooms that are like smaller ones, they just knock the walls down and make it a bigger space. But yeah, I don't know.
Just kind of like what we do in American society too, because like old houses would be separated too, and most people just knock down a wall and then all of a sudden it's like open concept.
Right. And then of course, if you're in the city in Japan, think of that in the States, but on a smaller scale. So the rooms are even smaller.
Right.
which I never understood. I don't know culturally why they've been separated into such small spaces, but this house is new. We're the first people to live here. I think it was 6 months old when we moved. So
Wow.
20, it was built in July of 2021.
Okay.
So the house is only 2 years old. And it's just a very modern house. And one reason we like it is because it's really spacious. Especially in Kyoto, you'll get, they call them unagi nedokoro. They call them eel, how do you want it? Eel caves. Because because there's not a lot of room wide, the houses tend to be skinny and long. The cave of an eel. It's just a word
Sure.
that they use. And I hate those houses. And when we were looking for houses, like so many of the houses were just, the rooms were small. Like it's long, but I want a room that's actually spacious and we can move around a bit. So when we found this place, like this room up here, the one reason I like it is the ceiling it's in line with the roof. So the ceiling's like if I put Berkough on my shoulders, you still couldn't touch.
Yeah, that's what I was getting the
ceiling.
feeling of.
It's
and
super high.
And all of a sudden, when you went to go shut your window, I was like, wait, you have more space than I think you do.
Yeah, I mean, all right. So,
Okay, yeah, that is way taller than I thought. Okay.
Yeah, so this room itself it's big. It's bigger than normal bedrooms in Japan, and we still get, this is really interesting for everyone as well. Right before the topic, we get flyers in our post for houses, and I've never seen anything there for a comparable price that is as spacious, especially our living room, as our place. So we got really lucky, and especially buying the house before the war started, because all the prices in Japan, like everything, like just went through the roof, especially wood. And so this house is already worth a shit ton more. And yeah, that's so so basically the reason we bought this house is because it's not a typical Kyoto house that has those small rooms as you were referring to.
Okay. Cool. Well, speaking of topic, because I haven't brought it up, we have a topic. I don't know, Berkough, if you want to introduce it or if you want me to do it, either or, doesn't matter.
all right. So what do we finalize for the title?
I don't
I
Do
know.
you want to read them off?
I mean, we just had so many different ones. You just want me to go through each of them one by one?
You could, yeah.
This is Berkough's idea. So Berkough basically it's been something we've talked about in the past of, I think the conversation really came into play when people were playing God of War Ragnarok. It was a little bit before that too, with a little bit of Horizon Forbidden West. But I think we really started to like chat more about it once God of War Ragnarok came out. And it was just like every time our characters would go into a specific space, we felt as if the character was already telling you what to do, to how to solve the puzzle before you even like had a chance to like digest everything. And so Berkough's idea of the title for the topic, well, we had a bunch of versions, but Berkough's first suggestion was, are AAA studios purposely dumbing down games, or are they following telemetry, or just doing what the market is demanding? That was not good enough for Mr. McWomble, who is not here. So he had to say,
I mean, it's kind of hard to put into the title of a.
Yeah, so then I framed it as our AAA our AAA games giving away the mental challenge in games with hints. And then you went to our AAA developers intentionally dumbing down games. And then McWomble's response was, not a snappy enough title, which is someone watching the comments, in case McWomble is here on the show, because I do not have the comments pulled up right now.
No, but we got Dan. We got Dan in the chat. And we got Shelburne.
Okay, well, you're going to be our chat guy, Berkough, because I don't have it pulled up. Then it went to...
It's not negative enough, right? Everyone gravitates toward negative. Joan is awful. Black Mirror, the new season. You got to think of the snappy negative title. I see what McWomble's doing. He's putting in the work.
Well, it wasn't snappy enough. So then our favorite, the favorite ethics Xbox game podcast,
Essex based, yeah.
Yep, decided to pop in and chime in. Mr. Dimp Digital himself decided to pop in and say, "Are gamers too thick for complex games?" And then also said, "Brain dead losers can't handle the mental challenge." And then to that one, it got McWomble to say, "Yeah, probably."
There you go.
So in a nutshell, our topic is talking about our AAA games our AAA games giving away the mental challenge in video games too early to allow gamers to actually feel challenged.
So I feel like that's one aspect of it, and we can get into a bunch of different aspects of this. And so what prompted me to want to suggest that as a topic to talk about was I was watching a guy streaming Jet Set Radio for the Dreamcast. I don't know if you guys remember that game. Or
Nope.
Jet Grind Radio. Jet Grind Radio is what it was called in the States. Um, and the one of the modes that he was in, you had to race another AI character. And they're on rollerblades, and you're kind of like going through the city, and it's like a cell shaded version of Tony Hawk with rollerblades. But he couldn't beat this character on the way that he was going. He's like, everything I do, even if I do it perfectly, he's already done it perfectly. But there's a one point in the stage where the character you're racing stops, and he waits until you reach that point, and then they starts going again. And somebody in the chat was like, "Well, why don't you try an alternate route?" So he does. He tries an alternate route, and what we found out was that in that particular level, that particular mode, the AI character won't progress unless you hit that trigger where it causes him to go for the second portion of the race.
So
And
he
I was
found
like,
a
I don't know
bug. He
how-
found a bug,
No.
basically.
It's not even a bug. I think it's interesting game design, because it's like, how would you, unless you did it so many times to the point where you're like, oh, I have to try an alternate route just to see, you wouldn't know that that was what you needed to do. But I feel like most modern games now would have some pop up and be like, maybe you should try an alternate route. You know what I mean? Like after the first failure, right? Like that would be how you would handle it in today's amusement park design. And so that was kind of what I was getting at with the topic. So I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts.
Yeah, on my end, I'm conflicted on this one. Like as a person that enjoys figuring out puzzles myself, sometimes I do find it annoying that I don't get an opportunity to feel like I'm really solving the puzzle myself without them giving me a giant hint about it. I will say the God of War one, I kind of in Ragnarok, and specifically I'm talking about the one where you learn that you can freeze the steamed water with your axe, and that would like change things in the environment around you. I kind of was able to figure that out before they gave me the hint, but I've seen videos of people getting the hint before they were able to figure it out, and I kind of was like, I got that moment of, oh my god, satisfaction. I was able to like, oh, what if I throw my axe at this water? What's gonna happen? Oh my god, I just figured out a new game mechanic. So I get it. Like I do enjoy that personally. I do find some games are giving it way too early, like the new Tomb Raider games, especially the last couple, 2 and 3 are so handholdy.
Yeah.
But I mean, I can understand the viewpoint on the dev side too, though, and I think there's just in my mind, there's a way to make a good compromise. But I can understand on the dev side, because if you look at having your favorite thing, trophies, I'm just doing in this comparison to PlayStation just because trophies are a really good indicator to see how far people make it in games, because there's a trophy for every single like story thing you get through, and you can see if they had finished the title. And people don't finish games. It's just not as common. And so I can understand the viewpoint of being like, well, let's make this as easy as possible for someone to be able to feel like they can finish it, so that they're not stuck. But I think at the same time, I would have just put in a setting where it says, hey, like I turn off hints or reduce hints, or give me a hint button that I can press if I want a hint at that moment.
Right.
I think there are solutions to this definite like occurringness of what is happening in the AAA space way more often. So I am not disagreeing. I totally agree with you, Berkough. I don't want it. I just I think there are solutions, and I hopefully that will just move in that direction. But what do you think, Evan?
Well, I was going to say that was the other part of it was that was why I brought up the telemetry, because you do have this new tool as a developer to be able to measure those metrics, right? Which was not something that developers had the ability to do back in 2000 or 2001.
I would disagree though. Not necessarily, Berkough. The only reason I disagree with that is like, they're doing testing on these titles. Like they test every bit of this game. They test they test sections of games. They test full playthroughs of games. So they know where the pain points are going to be there. They do extensive surveys to figure out like why they were stuck there. Sometimes they'll do interview questions to figure out why they were stuck in that specific scenario. So a lot of the choices design wise can be made sometimes because of testing. And this is not inside baseball. This is many comments have been made by game directors of being like, an example was for God of War, Cory Barlog did an interview and he even said, why in the world did you guys do why'd you do like stories in the boat? He's like, it was through testing. People were really bored in the boat and we wanted to have something that was more interesting to have. And the tricky part though was it also helped affirm some things for them, because all of a sudden a tester was like circling around in the boat constantly. And he was freaking out going like, oh my God, do they not know? Like they can interact with the port right there. Is it not really obvious to the player? Is there not like the things there? And then they talked to him after being like, hey, we saw you kind of like circling around, but she's like, no, I was just telling a cool story. I just wanted him to finish. And it's like, oh my God, that's so awesome to hear. But like, you wouldn't know that unless you were asking them. So, I mean, yes, yes, there is technology to like tell what people are doing. Like trophies is a good way to be able to like gauge the public audience on certain things, but testing is everything. You can't have a good title without good testing on it.
You know what game is in dire need of the walk and talk? Final Fantasy 16. You learn nothing about those characters unless it's in a cutscene.
Dude, are you not doing active time lore?
That's not true. That's not true. Don't you lie.
They talk every now and then, but the way that God of War specifically does it was great, because you just it kills two birds with one stone. You know, you're keeping the player engaged while you're going from A to B. I mean, even GTA does that. Like a lot of that, I remember it must have been GTA 5, like 20 hours in, I'm like, wait a minute, this whole game is me driving from A to B in the car, and they're just tricking me into thinking that there's more interesting things going on because they're constantly talking while they're doing it. I think that's a great way to keep people engaged in how mundane getting from point A to B can be.
That's why I disagree with you, because Final Fantasy 16 actually does that. It doesn't. I wouldn't say it doesn't very well, but at least it is doing it, and I'm noticing it. Even especially during the main story missions, even going from A to B, I can even remember. This isn't a big spoiler. It's literally in the beginning of the game, basically. But when you're going to the church full of the oh geez, now I forgot the terminology.
The bears?
Yeah, the ones with the bears. Like there's conversations happening in between walking there. Are they awesome? Are they as good as in depth as something like of a God of War? No, but they are there, and they definitely are offering context to player.
There, some of it's in there. When you get into some of the more open spaces, like take the sand in God of War Ragnarok. You know the sand area? That's basically a giant side quest area. There's all these points of interest that is very clear, and then so the devs know that you're going to be spending a lot of time going to each of those locations, and they just fill that space with a lot of interesting conversations that kill lots of birds with a single stone, where you learn more about Freya, you learn more about the land that you're in. It's just it's checking off all of these boxes, and then I'm in this giant area right now in Final Fantasy 16. It's like
You just
it's
hate the
running,
side quests. It's okay. It's okay.
running.
It's
So
okay. Hit
Okay,
side quests. But what does that have to
Alright.
do with
sorry. Yeah, we're
puzzles?
kind of we're
talk
getting
about
away from
the carriage. That's what I want to hear, because that's the other
the dumb down part.
yeah, that's the other portion. I was like, I saw you talk about that in the Discord, and then I saw this other guy play Jet Set Radio, and I was like, oh, like that's sort of how, I don't know.
Wait, but I want to
Let's talk
hear
about
his
the carriage
thought
a
on
little bit.
like mental puzzles really quick before we even get
Well,
into that.
yeah, the carriage will totally get you. Yeah,
I don't see the
Yeah,
connection between the carriage and the puzzles. I don't see that at all.
it's tangentially related, I guess. Yeah, because it's not. It's just they put the carriage, and it's
so
very
fucking close.
so like way too close. All they have to do is put it in the forest, and it solves the entire issue there. But before that, Mitch, before I forget, when you were talking about games like specifically Horizon Forbidden West is one of the worst cases of the game over explaining stuff before you see the puzzles and telling you where to go before you have a chance to find stuff yourself. And some of this stuff to me, it's been a solved problem since Uncharted, where if you're in an area and a certain amount of time passed, a puzzle area, a little D-pad showed up in the bottom of the screen saying push left to get a hint.
Yeah,
Like,
hint button. Yeah.
Just do that. Or like you
Right.
said, there's, I believe in Forbidden West, and I don't know about Ragnarok, there is a toggle for the level of hints that you're given or how quickly you're getting them. But I don't think we're at a point now where that's solved yet. Like they really need to do like completely
Well-
on, completely off. The toggle needs to be a bit.
Technically, Ragnarok's got nav assist and has audio cues, so like they could just use that to like help solve the puzzle.
Sure.
So
That is true. Yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be someone saying like push that button. You walk by that button 5 times. What did OTAP say? You fucking loser. You thick-headed idiot. But I do remember this situation had been brought up with Resident Evil 4 as well, where there was a tweet that blew up where in the remake they showed a picture of the breakable crates that had like a giant like yellow X painted on it, and the guys were like, "Why do devs keep doing this?" Because in the previous game was more of like a Scooby-Doo effect, where like the boxes stuck out, but they weren't painted white or yellow, which are the most common colors of like you can interact with that thing. And so he posted that, and then there was a dev who worked on Half-Life, Portal, and Left 4 Dead, I believe. He said like, "Oh, it's here. Someone has never sat in and observed playtesting. Like the reason we put that in is because people didn't know that they could break it." So I'm totally for that type of stuff. I get that. Make it as subtle as possible, or even in Tomb Raider, you could toggle that stuff, like turn off like the white paint that designates that like this is climbable. You can turn it completely off. So I do appreciate that stuff. It would be nice to have that in like in games moving forward.
Yeah, let me just hop
then
on
you
that
have stuff
really
like-
quick.
go ahead.
I think this is the frustrating thing about gamers is they don't understand is you are not the only demographic, and that there are more general players than there are hardcore gamers, and it's going to be hard to hear that, but that's true. And we need to make games available for everyone to be able to pick up and play. And like, again, I'm all for offering toggling options for hardcore players so that they can feel like they have challenge for the people that play like 10 games a year like we do. Or if you're Evan, he plays 14,000 games a year and they're all small indie games, and then claims he played all the AAA games. Anyway,
Okay.
I know, shots fired.
Shots fired.
Shots
Jesus.
fired. But yeah, what I'm trying to say is that is why that's why developers have to do that. Is when they're grabbing playtesters, they are grabbing the wide gambit of people. They're grabbing people that have never played the title that they're testing on. They've grabbed people that have played all of the titles before. They're grabbing people that have never played a video game before, and that is really important because when you design something, you think, okay, I'm a gamer, that this is what my mindset thinks. But it's not until you get into the hands of another person to actually see how it is affecting you as a player. They could just make an assumption all they want. You'd be shocked to learn of the things, like you said, they had to literally make a thing to tell a player, hey, anything with painted X's you can chop, because I bet you $1 million they all look like, oh, this is so pretty, this is a pretty crate, oh, look at this another pretty crate, oh my god, why are there so many X's with pretty crates on them, not knowing like, oh, I could break the dang thing, right? I think that's just like, it's such a lost notion in hardcore gamers, that it's like these games are meant for everyone. And yes, it's, if you want to find a game that you want to like have pure discovery with, go play Zelda. go play Breath of the Wild and all those kinds of games. That's fine. Go enjoy them. But like, not every game is going to be catered in that direction. And I think also for me, I think it respects the player's time. For me, as a person that doesn't have a lot of time on my hands as much anymore, I like knowing what I can do in a game and what are my options. Yes, do I like some self-discovery? Yeah, you can give me hints and I can like figure them out for myself and get that discovery feeling. But for a game like Breath of the Wild and a game like Tears of the Kingdom, for me, all that game is almost like a feeling of wasting my time, because all the cool things I'll never find unless I watch a video about someone else discovering it first. So that is, for me, really difficult. So there's just such a wide gambit of people that this is why games are the way they are. And it's a stupid thing to be frustrated about. I don't understand why someone's frustrated over a game explaining a mechanic to you. If anything, you should be thanking them so you can do it, because I think it would be worse for a hardcore gamer, going through the entire game not knowing they could have broken that crate and been like, why am I out of ammo all the time? Why do I have no health? Why do I not have this?
Right.
But also the other thing is like, they tell you can break the crates, the X with the crates on them. But if you play later on in Resident Evil 4, there's more than just the crates you can break. But the game doesn't tell you that. It teaches you
like the vase,
exactly, yeah,
the vases in the castle. Yeah.
So what it's doing is teaching you the base mechanic of, hey, you can break stuff, and then it leads the player to do their own self-discovery, going like, hey, what if I try to break this vase? And they're like, oh, all the vases now have stuff, and it just
That's a good point.
teaches the player
That's a good
something. It's like, this is just a stepping stone. It's not teaching you everything. It's just one stepping stone. And they could have found the correlation that players found that out, is like, once we told them, hey, you can break this, maybe they started to go break everything. And you're like, okay, that's exactly what we want, because we want them to discover stuff. And then they get to discover the snake in one of the crates and it scares the shit out of them like we want it to. I think people don't see like the payoff sometimes of like how much that goes into it. So
yeah, what did
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Matt, just one thing. Mr. Plinkett in his review of whatever it was, probably Star Wars, is like, you didn't notice it, but your brain did. So it's kind of like holding your hand a little bit in the village and then letting you go a bit to discover for yourself with something as simple as breaking the vases, or finding out that they are breakable by trying it out.
Yeah, I think it walks a fine line, right? The only game that I can think of that I'm playing recently that has something similar to that is Yakuza Kiwami 2. And you don't have to engage in the
Mick Womble's not here, right? We're safe to talk about this?
I think he's in the chat, but he's gonna have to fucking deal with it.
He's not under my desk, so yeah, I think we're good.
You don't have to do the side stories, right? Some of them you kind of run into them and they just happen. Others you have to seek out. You actually have to go talk to people. You have to actively engage with them. The ones that you actively engage with, though, spoiler warning, there's one side story that you do where you have to unlock a back room to a shop that you may or may not have gone to, and the shop is for stuff that's not really useful in the game until you do the side story to unlock the weapons, and you have access to the weapons in the back of the in the back room. But if you weren't actively engaging in the side stories, you would never discover that. It'd be something you can completely miss.
Yeah.
Um,
I was gonna say
You can miss getting the chocobo. All right.
yeah,
In Final Fantasy 16 if you don't do that side quest.
yeah.
okay.
But I think the game does a really good job by showing a little plus icon and making you go, what the heck is a plus icon? And all of a sudden you
Yeah.
do the mission, you're like, oh my god, I got a chocobo, and then you're like, oh, those might be way more rewardful. Maybe that's why it has a plus sign. And so then you start doing more plus sign missions, and then you're like, I'm getting these extra rewards out of them that I wouldn't get from the regular exclamation mark. So I definitely should be doing the plus ones. And it's like that's
Right.
what that's what games do.
That's interesting that you say that, Mitch. I saw the plus icon, but I didn't actually realize that it meant that maybe it's slightly more important as a side quest. So maybe that's another way, Berkough, is like label the side quests. You know, like when we have colors for like loot. Please don't do this, by the way. It would drive me nuts. But like, do something like that. Like, you should probably do this side, at least this side quest, or make it part of the main quest. I don't know, but that is a nice touch to where the game is hinting that maybe you should focus on this one.
Yeah, and then like this is what testing is all about. Like they probably didn't discover being like, why are the people, like why are the people not doing all these really good side quests that are going to be like worth people's time? Like how do we better tell that to the player, because we know like this game is already super long and we want to make sure that they get to take full advantage of all the extras that we have, especially for like these characters that are because the plus ones have a little more extra character stuff that happens as well, and it's a little less fetchy side quests, or they might be, but at the same time they do offer some variety. And I just think my last point is that something people don't probably think about is like a casual player that plays a game too isn't, again, us as hardcore gamers, we can handle managing a lot of things at the same time. We're used to using a controller consistently. We can handle new controls on occasion. A newer player that maybe is more new to video games, even if they have the game on easy mode, they are still probably struggling with the controls. So to have them try to self-discover things is probably a lot more difficult for them in the beginning of a title, and that's why tutorials exist. That's why they build in tutorials into games to try to make it as fluid as possible, to make you that's the word I'm looking for. But basically, it's better to build your tutorial into the game mechanic itself rather than trying to like post a little card to tell you about something. But sometimes you can't do it. Sometimes you just can't. So like it's like, okay, well, what's a way we can tell somebody? Pop up a card, tell them what they can do, and then have them try it. I don't see a way you could have told a player, hey, you can break this crate without an enemy maybe breaking it. But then what happens? The player might be confused, being like, oh, only enemies can break crates. I can't break them. And doesn't have the curiosity. Yeah. So like there's just it's a long thought out. It's not done just being willingly being like, let's just put up this little instruction to say you can break a crate. Like this takes a lot of time for people to figure out what is the best way to demonstrate this to the player. So I think that's something that people take for granted.
Yeah, it really is hard because there's so many people playing video games, varying skill levels, and how do you find a middle point where hardcore gamers with a Z trademark is like, this is so dumb, acting like I would never play a video game, and they feel insulted. Sometimes it does feel insulting in tutorials, but also like it's there for a reason. I was gonna pose a question to both of you. Would you prefer, like, there's so many games, and I get it because they have to do this, as Mitch is saying. So many games it's like a 3D over the shoulder action adventure game. In the tutorial, they'll do the hold L forward to walk, and then you get the classic like something's blocking the way, and you're like,
hit
push
B or zero.
or circle to crouch. It's always the same shit, right? Like walk, crouch, and so they teach you through the game actual traversing the environment little by little. They do it in The Last of Us as well, and then eventually you get your backpack and you can open up your inventory and stuff like that. Or would you prefer something that's a bit more diegetic like that, or something that just like the screen pauses and it just shows you like these are all the things you can do?
You
I
can go
mean,
first,
this
Berkough.
might depend on the game itself, but
McWalma's not here. I'm not going to interrupt you, Berkough. Go ahead.
by the way,
interesting thing-
McWalma on the chat says the gamers with a Z can fuck off. Yeah.
Maybe that should be our
No, well,
title
it's-
for this episode. The gamers can.
It
It has
is,
like
it
nothing
is
to do with what
interesting.
we're talking about.
No, you know what he set it to. You know what he set the topic to was Berkough has a topic. That's the name of this episode right now. I have a topic.
And
We don't know exactly what it is, but
We found the perfect title for the show.
yeah, no, I mean, like, all right, so games also don't have instruction manuals these days, which was like a huge thing. Like, I can remember as a kid driving to Toys R Us, buying that game, the drive home, I would be reading that fucking manual. You know what I mean? Like, you don't
Yeah, it tells
have
you
that,
exactly what to do.
you don't have that with games these days. You don't have a booklet that you open up to say like, all right, these are what I have to, the buttons I have to hit to do X, Y, and Z.
You have a digital one though.
Sometimes,
No, you do.
sometimes you have a digital
It's
one.
called an options menu with control schemes.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, like sometimes that is available. Sometimes, like, Yakuza will do it where, like, if you're in a mini game or whatever, you hit a button, it pops up the controller, so you can see like how the controls have changed.
I do
Stuff like
spend a
that.
lot of time in the options menu before I play most games. But Berkough, this reminded me of think about stuff like Nintendo Power, where it would like have
Right.
the entire map of like Metroid in the Nintendo Power, and there was no
Right.
option for that in the actual game itself because they were limited by how much how big
Space.
the game was.
How much space?
Right,
was
right.
Yeah,
on
for
it?
the so you, like the first DLC, like
Yeah.
it wasn't horse. It was like you got to buy the Nintendo Power if you want to beat this game because the game is a giant fucking labyrinth, and
Right,
and
right, yeah.
with like telling you exactly how to get through the game. Like a lot of that stuff was like Milo's Secret Castle, Hidden Castle, horrible NES game.
Here, I thought you were gonna say Milo, like the Xbox
drink?
project.
Oh Milo, oh god,
Don't
Fucking
bring in
Milo.
Peter Molyneux into this thing.
No,
But you
Although-
were saying Berkough about the manual.
Yeah, no, so like that's not really something that people do these days, right? So you have to find ways in order to integrate that same information into the game itself, in order to make it so that people can actually interact with what you've created. You know,
you need to play Tunic. So
Tunic was
very interesting
interesting.
take on the. Oh, okay, you play
because
it.
it has the manual elements in it, yeah, and then you like learn the language and everything. Yeah,
I would
that was interesting take on it.
I would say I'm on Berkough's side, but I'm for different reasons. There's so much more benefit to having you learn the controls by doing it in the game. Like an example, jumping. Even the simple concept of jumping, you learn how far a distance is that you can make a gap by actually having you do it in a game.
Or if you can move the character, or if the character has a specific arc that they do when
exactly.
they jump. Yeah.
And all the other things you learn too is like you learn the environmental cues to know, hey, this is a crouchable area, or this is something I can sneak past in between. This is the amount of gap space I can have. You learn so much in context by doing. There's actually so many like psychological reasons to why in learning people learn visually, auditorily, and then kinetically. The kinetic is done that way because you see an actual demonstration, you're doing the control at the same time, so you're learning it that way. Visually, you see the button control on the screen so that you know what button you need to press to, or what movement you need to do to be able to do that certain thing on the screen. And auditorily, you get all that all at the same time because you have the ambiance of, the audio of him making the grunt to do the jump, or the audio of the shimmying that you're doing in between the objects. So you're getting all those at once, where in comparison, if I just threw a menu at you and said, here are all the controls, you're only learning visually. And that's just not enough.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's just like,
you know,
if you
it's
can throw it all together, it's so much easier to demonstrate to the player. And then I think also it breaks down other barriers for players too, because you've done it before. Now you can experiment knowing the basics of like exactly what is available to you. I would use a really good example. The original Prince of Persia did this, taught you the control scheme this way. And I think it was to its
Are you
extreme.
talking about the Sands of Time?
Yes, Sands of Time. The original Prince of Persia, Sands of Time, taught you the control scheme, this method.
I went way back to the DOS version. I was like, what the
No. Sorry.
That's what I wanted to double check, make sure he was talking about.
I don't count the
PlayStation
DOS
2 game.
version. So Sands of Time, this is how it taught you the control scheme to be able to do things. And I think to this game, it did it to its benefit, because the part of what Prince of Persia, the Sands of Time did so well, and what I think is missing in traversal games nowadays, is traversal puzzling.
Yeah.
And being able to teach you the basic controls by having you do it and complete a puzzle at the same time taught you the expanse of what you can do, and then allowed you to experiment as you go further onto the puzzles. So I think it tackled all those birds with one stone, and I think it was a real masterpiece of showing what you can do in tutorialization. So
Yeah, I can agree with that.
This something like Super Mario 3D World takes a Japanese concept. This is really embarrassing. I forgot the Japanese word for it. It's a 4 kanji word, but it and there's a Game Maker's, shout out to Game Maker's Toolkit, which is a great YouTube channel that breaks down game design in video games in a very visually pleasing manner. It's very high production value, but he talks about Super Mario 3D World through the lens of a Japanese design philosophy, where you introduce a concept with because like in that game there'll just be one-off concepts. Like for example, in one level you jump, and when you jump the red and white panels will flip every time you jump.
Right.
And so what it'll do at the beginning of the level is, you know, because you're going to be jumping in that game naturally, it's not the beginning of the game that's telling you how to jump, which I don't think those games do, but it's at the beginning where it's hand-holdy in the way, like you start jumping and you start noticing every time you jump, the platform flips from, it's like looks like a domino, the red to blue. And if you fall down there, there's like there's a floor that you can climb back up and try again. So there's no you don't die.
Penalty.
There's no consequences at the beginning. Yeah. So it's showing you how to do that. And then the next part is ramping up little by little, ramping up the difficulty with that puzzle. And now that there's no floor to catch you, if you make a mistake, you'll fall and die. And then what it'll do is turn a puzzle on its head in a unique way. So just when it increases the difficulty of the puzzle little by little throughout the level, then it'll throw something more unique at you, or layer that with one of the other jumping mechanics or things from a previous level that you've learned. And then at the end, it'll give you some sort of satisfactory ending to that whole thing. And I like that idea. And when like seriously, watch that Game Maker's Toolkit about it. It's really interesting to see how they break down that idea and show examples from the game about how they introduce stuff and then ramp up the challenge and then throw something, they turn it on its head, and then they have a satisfying conclusion to that type of stuff.
I can give you Portal is a better example, to be honest. That game literally
I've actually never played Portal.
Oh, okay. So like that game literally teaches you a new mechanic, then does a spin on that mechanic, teaches you a new mechanic, then does a spin on that mechanic. Then it goes new room, use the two mechanics and combine them together. It's that one I would say is more of a masterclass of puzzling in any video game, to be honest.
I should play it.
Dude,
well, the Talos Principle does it.
Portal?
I know. I don't know. It's like it came to the orange box, but I never had the orange box. So
well, it didn't run well
it
on
was like
PS3 anyway. So it
was a PC game. I had a PlayStation 3. I bought a PlayStation 3 in 2012. It's like,
dude,
I was all out of whack.
You can run Portal on anything now because the game is so old. Any laptop could run Portal easily. It's not
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's not like a powerhouse on your PC. Like I can run that thing at like 200
You
frames
might
a
even
second
be
if I
able to-
wanted
You might even be
to.
able to play it on that Xbox that you got.
You might be
You
able
probably buy it
to,
on the
Let me
Xbox store.
but
if I'll have to check. I should, but like the Talos Principle as well, Berkough is a great game that and this is true for most puzzle games. This is just how you have to design them. Is you have to
Right.
introduce concepts little by little, to whereas like at the end of that game, you're doing the craziest, most layered shit that you've ever seen, and by that time the game has prepared you drip feed with explaining how puzzles work contextually because you're doing them as you're learning as you're doing them, to where like at the end of that game you're doing all this awesome shit that it's been impossible for you to know how to do any of that stuff if
well,
they
I'll
didn't
just one up you, and
slowly
it's
teach you.
not actually puzzles. It's just games in general. Like every
Sure.
mechanic you do, it will evolve. It's like the beginning is the basics, and every time you will be put in a new situation that puts a spin on its head that keeps having you grow and learn new things, whether that's new enemy types, that's like consider a puzzle, new weapon types, new upgrades, all that kind of stuff is just like that same concept. It's just giving more choice
Right.
to the player.
Yeah. Like you beat the easy enemies and then all of a sudden there's one with a shield.
Yep.
Like okay, there's a
exactly.
new way you have to
Right,
defeat that
yeah.
guy, and then there's one that his attacks can't be blocked or their attacks can't be blocked, and at the end of the game there's 8 different kinds of enemies and you know exactly how to deal with each one because the game has
Exactly.
taught you little by yeah it's
I mean, games
parallel.
are a puzzle. That's literally everything is a puzzle in games. It's sometimes you don't see it because you're just having too much fun with it. You're like, I'm having fun shooting their heads off, not knowing that actually they're teaching me how to take out the enemies differently because of, or changing my strategy or like doing something different because of the new enemy type.
Like it was kind of what I was saying before. It walks a fine line between spoon feeding somebody and giving them just enough to where they feel like they have figured it out for themselves.
Yep. What other problems do you have, Berkough, besides mega hint puzzles?
No, that was it. I mean, like the title was sensationalist, but at the end of the day, like it was just I wanted to talk about design philosophies for like new games, and the fact that you don't have instruction manuals, you have to do different things in new games in order to supplement that.
Well, let me pose this question then. What is your solution to the problem for you and Evan? What's your solution to the spoon feeding problem?
I think you have to let the player fail first. You have to let them understand that if you do certain things, it results in not succeeding in the game.
Let me be devil's advocate for 1 second, just because like I love playing this game. What if by having them fail, they instantly just want to quit the game?
And your entire goal as a dev is to keep them playing the game of it, right?
Yeah.
What if they're like, this is stupid. Why is it not working the way I've always felt like it was supposed to work?
I feel like you're always gonna have those people. Like that, you can't get rid of those people. They're always gonna exist, right? No matter what you do. So, I would stay the course. I would say, no. The game has to not necessarily punish you, but just have that element of if I don't do X, Y, and Z, like my character won't make it or whatever.
What do you think, Evan? What's your solution to the problem?
It's hard because I remember the first time I had noticed that games were being quote unquote dumbed down, slash brain dead losers can't handle a mental challenge, as OTAPs would consider it being, was that Batman Arkham Origins, the game that the Arkham team didn't make, which I actually think is a severely underrated game. It's definitely better than Arkham Knight.
It's hilarious.
You hate it?
Not included. Well, it's hilarious. It's not included in any packages. So if you
So
buy
mean to that team.
if you buy the Arkham collection, it doesn't include that game.
Right.
I wonder out of
That's-
curiosity if it
maybe
has
there's an
more to
issue.
do with like
license.
publishing issues. Like you can't
Yeah.
It
because
might be,
because
yeah,
the
but,
portions of the money would go in different directions, and maybe like if they bought it, it's just not enough of a percentage to make the other studio worth it.
It's just funny.
Where when I started that game, it said press L to walk, and I think I took a snapshot of it. I'm like, this is where we're going with this. And
Oh no, that's Arkham City, my friend.
I guess
The opening
Arkham City did it as well. I just didn't
The
notice.
opening scene is where literally you stand there and it just says press forward to walk.
So
Every fucking,
But
every Call of Duty
it also
game.
turned the camera. It also did a weird thing. It's like they did the camera, and the way the camera was, it didn't have like movie bars to like signify it's a cutscene. So all of a sudden, it just had the camera stay there, and then if you waited too long, then it would pop up the hint of press forward to walk when you were supposed to walk like 3 minutes ago, but you didn't know because you thought it was all part still of the cinematic.
Oh, sure. And again, that's the playtesting thing. Hey, brain dead loser who can't handle a mental challenge, push the L stick forward. I think the
old stick.
What if it was the right stick by this time?
So difficult for me.
What?
Please cater to all of my needs, because I don't know what I'm doing.
I'm just kidding. That's mean. I think the I think the solution is accessibility features, Mitch. I'm not trying to
Mitch.
like score points with you or anything like that, but like
Right.
that stuff is it seems so recent, and I'm glad that it exists in games where it's like, oh wow, this is so there's so many accessibility options, and
All-encompassing.
you can toggle and kind of change so many little things about the game, and like I think that's cool. And so put that stuff in accessibility options, and maybe before you start the game at the title screen, like tell the well, a lot of that stuff before you even get the title screen, it'll be like HDR settings, accessibility settings. So it's not hidden in the options menu, it's showing you right away before you even hit the title screen, like, hey, these are things that you can toggle, and we're gonna show you how to do that now, and not hide it behind the option menu that you realize there's all these cool features that you can adjust, like, you know, when you're 12 hours into the game. So I think that's the solution, is just adding more accessibility features for stuff like this. And they're really, for all of like the hint giving that has been pretty egregious in the Tomb Raider games and Horizon and even God of War, there has to be an option to turn them completely off, because from what I remember, the only thing they've done so far is like minimum amount of hints. Or, and again, like the Uncharted thing, like give someone a chance to solve it themselves, and if they're taking too long, then suggest a hint. I thought Uncharted did that well without, you know, feeling insulted or getting mad at the game or whatever. And like, of course, there's going to be someone who's takes a snapshot on Twitter or fucking Threads or Mastodon or whatever, like, why game's so dumb, I'm so smart. But whatever, like most people, I think they don't care about that stuff. So
yeah, I'm oh, go.
Well, I was gonna say, like, I like the idea of setting up your game on first launch, right? Like, and having those menu options just populate, because as much as I want to like just jump into the game, and I'm kind of mad at the game that it's asking me to like set the brightness level and everything. After I go through all that shit, I'm way happier. The fact that it actually asked me ahead of time, and I spent that 5 minutes, you know, to do all these little minor adjustments that I don't have to think about when I'm actually in game. I think that's honestly, like, that's how you deal with it, you know.
Well,
You just-
also you look at it like most people don't know what kind of options are available in a game until you put it in their face. Some people don't even think about looking in the options menu to see what options are available to you as a player to be able to adjust the game for your experience. So to have that on boot really helps a lot, because it literally just puts it all in your face. And it also says, so like you'll see God of War Ragnarok did this amazingly well, is like they're like, hey, do you want to just adjust the general settings, or do you want to look at the accessibility options? And then it kind of gave the player the option to kind of be like, no, I just need to see general settings. I'm just like, I don't need any accessibility. And even when
default's fine for me.
yeah,
whatever.
and even with the accessibility options, I think they list. I can't remember. It's been so long since I did the boot menu for that game, but like in my mind, I'd love to see it listed of like what kind of stuff you can adjust, which I think they did. But anyway, I'm on the Evans side. Like I really like. I do love how Uncharted does the hints, and just, you know, if you can't solve it after a certain amount of time, there's a hint button. You hit it, and it'll point you in the right direction. I do think also it should just be an option. Like, I don't mind the default setting being hold your hand, tell you what to do. I don't mind that as the default, because I'd rather you be able to solve the puzzle and continue rather than be frustrated and not know it's a menu option to change and turn it on. Because I'm going to tell you right now, a vast majority of them will want that on, whether we like it or not. So with that being said, it would be great to have a menu option saying, I don't want any hints. I want some hints. I want my hint to be on a button after a significant amount of time. It's that kind of thing. And then leave it there. And like, hey, if the hint button shows up, doesn't mean you have to click it. If you're like, hey, I still want to try to solve this puzzle, don't hit the button then. Yeah. Just keep playing. Yeah. Just keep trying to figure it out. But at least the hint is there to be able to help you as a player.
You think I can't do it by myself? I was a nom.
I am always an advocate for having an option for you as a player to be able to do something. And heck, I'm a giant advocate for a skip puzzle option. 100%. Like, okay. We have it in The Last of Us. It's a great option for if you just feel like you can't solve the puzzle and you still want to have a good experience, you can skip it. And the best part is, all you hit is the options menu, and it's the first thing that pops up in the options menu, so you don't have to go digging in the options to find the skip puzzle button. As long as you have it enabled. It's an enabled button. But if you enable it, if you hit options, it'll pop up as the first thing on the menu. You can click it, skip, bam, you're good. Best part about it, you don't miss story. That's even better. Is like you just get to the next closest thing before the next story beat, so you don't feel like you're missing the experience. I mean, I have ideas of how I want to improve that, but like that's a different story. Like in my mind, I love to see if I ever hit a skip puzzle option. I'd love to have the player be controlled by AI and just literally complete the puzzle in front of you, just so you know how it was done, instead of just feeling like you missed out on how it was completed. Because then it might give you a eureka moment, and you might learn something along the way. So like that's a cool way you could do a skip puzzle option of the future. Don't know if it's possible. It's just like something that has been on my brain for a while, but that would be super
I like that.
Cool.
It's almost like a toggle cinematic.
Almost. Yeah.
Option.
Yeah. It's almost.
Like, do you want to solve the puzzle yourself, or do you want to toggle a cinematic? You could have a story mode difficulty setting, which that was like the default. You know.
That would be nifty. Whereas like every time you get to a puzzle, like it self does it for you. You just stand there, and it'll be could be a pre-recorded gameplay of someone else doing it on the developer side, and they just play basically a video for you, seeing how it was done, and then you just continue playing your gameplay. Yeah, there's so many ways to do it, but like I just I'm always an advocate for trying new things and expanding things. So that would be my expansion of a skip puzzle option in the future that I think would be really helpful for people.
Yeah, I think the video thing is a good idea. It's a good idea across many genres, because if a game is a puzzle game like the Talos Principle, skipping the puzzle is detrimental to the game, because then you won't be able to. You need it for the next thing. So instead of whereas like in Resident Evil 4 Remake, there's a couple puzzles where you have to like just flip like panels around, and there's some people, their brains just don't work. I hate sliding panel puzzles. I hate them. I can't even tell you how much I hate them. My brain, I try, but my brain just doesn't understand how they work, nor do I want to put the effort into learning how they work. So in that regard, a skip puzzle feature for a game that's not focused around the puzzles, it's kind of just like a side thing for Leon to do before you go to like the actual meat and potatoes of the game, totally. But then for something like the Talos Principle, like you were saying, Mitch, maybe a video, and then you can see how like, oh, I didn't realize I could do that. Now I know. Right.
Now,
so that you are still learning.
Even crazier is like if you want to take that and expand it even further, it's like it might not even be a video. Like if there's some way to do it in the game itself, and then you could just stop it at any time you want because you feel like you can solve it after that.
Oh yeah, I don't need the rest.
Yeah,
of it.
I don't need the rest of the hint. Let me just solve it now because I think I know. And then
Like a projection or something.
and then if you're like stuck still, if you try to solve it and you're stuck, you can just go back and it'll continue on as if you were just playing like normal, and it will finish solving the puzzle for you. So like that is like a way to even expand that even farther. Don't even know what's in the realm of possibility, but like, you know, it's just like a thing of the future that I think games could really do. The only problem with that is this is just about skipping puzzles, and like how much time do we need to spend on doing that rather than focusing on the experience for everyone else. So it's it's like
what
balance
what
of
could
like
you do
yeah.
to give the player the ability to do that.
Yeah, and it's like how much time are you
versus,
spending
like-
doing that? Like it's a catch-22 situation. So like obviously something like this, if would be worked on or implemented in any capacity, would be like small stepping stones, eventually getting to that place where I would like imagine this idea working.
Right.
But
Yeah.
just because there is just people are limited on what they can do for how much time it takes to build a title. So
Totally.
It seems like we're coming to the end of the conversation here. Can we try something out for this episode, and then we can just not do it ever again? But I kind of want to try it.
sure.
This is called the Twitch chat log. Most of us have not. Well, this would actually require both of you to go on to
Twitch.tv
Pixel Pints
/
Twitch to see the
I'm
chat.
on it right now.
Hold on,
yeah, I
let me
can
pull it
read
up.
through it. Yeah.
But is it going to show the entire log though? If you
Probably not.
Look
Yeah,
now?
Yes, it will. Yep, I have the whole
it
thing.
will.
Yeah, I have the chat starting at 12:26.
I have it starting with Mick Womble saying, "Who are these smelly bastards?"
Okay, I have that. Yep,
Oh, I haven't-
12:37.
Okay.
Before that.
Okay.
Okay, can we just? I don't have that, so okay. I'm going to. We're going to read the entirety of the Twitch chat and then play different people. I'll be McWomble. Berkough, how about you be yourself? Even though you only did 2 comments, and then Mitch, you can be Dan. Can we try this? And we'll never do it again.
Okay.
Okay. Mitch is like, why? Evan, I don't like. Stop with your ideas. You always have bad ideas. Okay, here we go. This is a Twitch chat. I'm Mick Womble, by the way. Mitch is Dan. Berkough is Berkough. Here we go. Who are these smelly bastards?
Ha 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 ha. Evan, you're not enjoying Final Fantasy 16?
Yeah, he's really not liking it. LOL.
Interesting.
Is it because the dialogue isn't shitty anime enough?
Matt, we need to Diablo for some reason. We are still not friends.
He just doesn't like you enough.
Hold on, I gotta figure out what kind of face that is. I don't even know what kind of emoji that is.
The pondering. It's the pondering.
Pondering face. At McWomble, arrow up, that thumbs up or a middle finger.
Thumbs up.
That's a middle finger.
That's a middle finger.
Oh, is it a middle finger?
Yeah, that's a
Oh,
middle
alright,
finger.
okay.
Out.
LOL. My wife even wanted to play the other night, and I just wasn't into it at the time.
You can tell her man wrote Aloy because she mansplains to herself. That's pretty good, actually.
At Berkough, I'm enjoying more and more as I play. At McWomble, ha ha ha. You are defo, right?
The gamers with a Z can fuck off. Oh, I'm always here, even when I'm not. I think I'm the only person who rewatches this show.
At McWomble, you might be right with the star. And he's wrong. I do watch back these podcasts.
And end the scene. Let's never do that again. I just thought we should give it a try.
I think you just played the wrong character, Evan. You're more of a Dan guy than a
Yeah.
McWomble.
Okay, maybe if the text chat is long enough at some later point, we'll try to play the people that we'd be better at.
You know, we should do more of
expressing.
like who was our favorite commenter of the episode, and then give them a shout out for their comment that they made that we loved so much. So like,
Shout out to the
I
Nick
give-
Womble.
No, I give
with
shout out to
you
the.
can. Oh.
I was gonna say I give a shout out to the Danboy90 with the at McWomble and a total middle finger.
It's a pretty good comment.
You guys,
It's right
you
to
guys
it's Kurt.
You guys
It's
missed
terse.
the at Shelburne, saying he wanted to see Evan put me on his shoulders.
Yeah, I did see that one.
Oh shit! Yeah, and touch the ceiling. No,
li-
maybe
I-
one day
I like your titles.
when you visit Japan.
I think it's funny because I'm the shortest pixel piner there is.
How tall are you?
5'7".
Holy shit, you're short.
Yeah, 5'7", 5'8" at the most.
And
You guys
I'm
are-
not that tall either. I'm like just 5'10". So
Well, we're the same
Berkough and I
height. We're
together
the same height, Evan. I'm
would
just,
not
I'm
touch
just,
my ceiling.
Yeah.
Okay.
You and me, Evan, we
need-
could touch the ceiling.
Probably 2 McWombles could definitely touch the ceiling. I met him in person. He's a tall guy.
It's like
Dan
6'2" or
is-
some shit.
I think Dan's a bit taller than us. 2 Dans could definitely touch the ceiling. 2 Evans, I'm not so sure.
Get so dang close.
I wish I could. Unfortunately, Yep.
All right.
What's going on? What are we doing? It's
What-
all my fault.
I've been waiting for Berkough to say the words, and he could have said it there, and he just totally whiffed on it.
What are you talking about? Like I was waiting. You guys started talking, and I was like, all right, I'm not gonna say it.
Well, he
He's just
said,
being nice.
He said it's such a great comment where it would hop in to say like, "Oh, 2 Evans definitely wouldn't touch the ceiling," and then that's where you're supposed to say the words.
And that's on that note, we're out. We're done with this shit.
It's you gonna change your catchphrase, and that's all, folks. Wait a minute.
So my second beer that I didn't talk about, Coors, 50 years.
Oh wow.
1873.
What is that banquet logo?
Yeah,
Was that the original name?
Yeah, just
Oh, the banquet
Coors,
beer.
Banquet beer, yeah, just regular
Yeah, yeah.
Coors.